Welcome to Latte with a Lawyer, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the stories of some of America's most successful lawyers, figuring out what makes them tick, how they creatively solve problems, and how others aspiring to be them can follow in their footsteps.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Latte with a Lawyer. I'm your host, Jonathan Brickman, and this afternoon we get with us Bob Berluti from outside of Boston, which is great because I'm from Malden, Mass, with law firm of Berluti McLaughlin Kutchin, and I hope I didn't butcher that too bad.
Not at all.
All right, good. Welcome to the show, Bob.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Excellent. So just to get started, my first question, Latte with a Lawyer, what's your morning beverage of choice to get started?
To be honest, probably in some reflection of my age, it's now a mocha. I do a half hot chocolate and half espresso. I end up having a couple of coffees, and that's usually the first one that I have, to be honest with you.
All right, good. Well, again, I told you I was back visiting my mom, and Starbucks almost doesn't exist in the Boston area. They refuse to accept it, right? It's Dunkin' Donuts everywhere.
Well, yeah, and I think the pandemic had something to do with it, and I think that there's still quite a few Starbucks, but you're right, it's still a Dunkin' Donuts world for sure.
Oh yeah, it's I always get a kick out of that. But anyway, it's fine. So tell us what kind of law you guys practice, and tell us about your firm.
Sure. So as a firm, it's mostly a civil practice, meaning, money side business type stuff. The focus of the practice is representing closely held businesses, meaning private businesses as opposed to publicly traded companies.
Okay.
Oftentimes family owned. And, as businesses become more successful, generally they become more financially successful. So we also have a whole section on wealth planning and the like. In today's world, to be in business, is to be in litigation, at least at some point in time, and in any various number of issues. My personal practice is in trial practice. I do trial work, and when it breaks, it comes down my side of the office. We do everything from shareholder disputes to contract disputes to employment disputes, really of every name and nature. My practice also includes employment law, which can include representing both employees or employers, sometimes in the non-compete dispute world, either enforcing them or trying not having them be enforced. Sometimes on wage and hour issues and the like. So that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, well, that's a lot of stuff. But you find yourself in the courtroom often. You like to try cases.
I do. My first partner, John McLaughlin, and I started off with very similar practices. In becoming lawyers, he thought he would be a trial lawyer. I thought I was going to be a business/tax lawyer. And our actual paths have totally gone the other way. He's become the business guy, and I've become the trial guy. I've ultimately found that my highest and best use is in a courtroom. So
interesting. Why do you think that happened? What's the skill set that you have that sort of led you there?
Yeah, who knows? But I think I'm competitive by nature, and you become a lawyer because you have a sense of right and wrong, and when you hear that something hasn't gone right, certain natural instincts kick in, and I think that has a lot to do with it. And although the legal system is the best that we have, it's imperfect, but I must say that I actually find the courtroom in some respects to be something of a, it's sort of quiet. It's sort of like a laboratory almost, in which you can really sort of try to present a story and hopefully convince the citizens to your viewpoint. When it works, it's very rewarding. When it doesn't, it can be very disappointing, but it is what it is. So.
All right. Well, I bet your batting average is pretty good.
I'm still at it after all these years, so it's good enough.
Okay, good. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up outside of Boston in a town called Walpole. Nice town to grow up in. Yeah, nice town to grow up in. And we lived there. My parents lived there for over 50 years. I actually now live in the town next to Walpole, so we didn't go too far. But anyway,
what town you live in now?
Westwood.
Oh yeah, Westwood, sure.
Yeah, in part because my parents and were still alive and living in Westwood. But I have a brother and a younger brother and two older sisters, and none of us ventured too far. We're all in the area, so
Okay.
worked out.
Well, Walpole used to have the maximum security prison there, right?
They still do, but believe it or not, it's closing.
Oh, really? How come?
They
Yeah.
just announced in the last year or so, maybe less than that they're going to close that facility. Believe it or not.
No kidding.
There's going to be a maximum security facility in Massachusetts, at least to my knowledge.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
I think some of my classmates from Malden High School ended up in there.
Yeah.
Oh boy, it was quite a crew I went to school with. Anyway, we'll leave that alone. But any other lawyers in your family?
No, I was the first lawyer in my family.
Yeah. So how did that happen? Like, how did you decide to become a lawyer?
Well, a couple of things. I think my father was a World War II guy, and I think that if the course of the world was a little different, I think he might have liked to have become a lawyer. And he always kind of said, gee, it would be a good thing to be a lawyer. And that's something that sort of resonated with me over time. But in the end, as I got older and in college and whatnot, the prospect of working for myself was enticing. There was no family business there to succeed to.
Right.
The prospect of getting into a profession and working for myself, I found highly enticing. And I ultimately concluded that, as a lawyer, I could perhaps do some good in helping people and hopefully also do reasonably well financially. And so that, helped. The education is very good, I will say. Having done this for a long time, the business of practicing law is probably not the best business model, but it's fine. It's good.
Yeah. Why do you say that though? I'm curious because there is a lot of emphasis these days on how to run a law practice as a business and do it efficiently. Yeah.
For sure. And the typical billing model is that of an hourly rate, right? Time billing for an hour. So in many respects, we're no different than a plumber, an electrician. Our rates might be different, although I'm not sure those might be higher now, but it's really not terribly different. So, each case is its own vignette. So while you can develop an expertise in a particular area of the law, when you apply it to any given case, that has its own set of facts. So it's not like building a widget, or it's certainly not like having a software program, which once you develop the algorithm, then whether you sell it once or 5 million times, it's the same algorithm, right? And so it really scales. And a law practice can scale by increasing hours. So you increase hours by increasing people, and the rates go up. But many respects, I think lawyers can be billing themselves, above the market. You got to be careful as to what happens.
Yeah. No, I understand what you mean by that, but there are processes that you can put in place too that allow you to be more efficient so you can scale, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the technology is critical, and you do try to get better at that. You try to the extent that you can standardize certain forms, certain correspondence, and that type of thing. You do try to do that to develop efficiencies and not reinvent the wheel every time, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And most recently, obviously, the thing that's getting a lot of publicity, obviously, now is artificial intelligence. It does apply to the law practice. It is, and as a matter of fact, we just revised our, online research vendor because they've just increased it with an AI capability, and we're getting used to it and we're learning it, but it's really very impressive. And I don't think it's going to replace lawyers, but I do think it's going to be a tremendous tool. I really do. So,
do you? So I know you said you were on both the plaintiff and defense side, depending on the case. But would you use a product? Have you heard of Even Up, for example, for demand letters? Even Up.
I have not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's mainly, you know, probably personal injury, medical malpractice kind of on the plaintiff side that they use it for a plaintiff lawyer to produce with artificial intelligence a demand letter to take a lot of the labor out of that process.
I can see that as being really helpful. You know, one of the reasons is because if it has, you know, other sort of similar cases, results in there and can give sort of you know, this case is like these
Yeah.
5 cases in which this has been the range of outcomes. I can see it really being helpful in that regard.
Got it. So anyway, yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, AI is going to be everywhere. You can't fight it. You have to think of it as another tool that can just make you more efficient.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. How big is your firm? How many lawyers do you have?
We have 12 lawyers, sort of grown one at a time,
Yeah.
so to speak. Although Ed Kutchin and Kerry Northup did come together, but anyway, that's what we have.
And are you the only trial attorney? You have others?
Yeah, no, I'm this. You can tell by looking at me, the senior trial attorney, if you will. But we do have 5 other people that do trial related work.
Okay.
And some do go to trial, but depending on, you know, the key disputes, those are the ones that I will handle.
Okay.
But we do have 5 other people in sort of a litigation side of the world here.
All right.
6, yeah.
And how often do you actually get to go in front of a jury and do a jury trial?
Well, you know, as it goes in law practice, I think reasonably frequently, you know, 3-4 times, 3-4 times a year.
Okay.
This year, as we're set up, it looks like it might be more than that. But as you know, the vast majority of cases do settle, but sometimes they don't settle until literally on the proverbial courthouse steps.
Right.
But we have a federal civil case coming up in just a couple of weeks on January 23rd up in New Hampshire. So, and that is going to go to trial. So, you know, this year I think I will have at least 4 jury trials. So
okay. And you're still enjoying that?
I do.
Good.
I do.
How do you get ready? How do you get ready for it? What's your approach?
Well, there's no shortcut for preparation. What the preparation means. So a lot of the disputes that I handle are business related, even if it's employment. So they're reasonably document intensive.
Okay.
So, you know, you try to selected the most important documents and focused on them by the time you're getting to the point of trial. But it just, you know, it never ceases to amaze me that even if it's a contract case in which you have read the contract, what seems like 1,000 times, when you read it again, you know, right before the trial, there's something that jumps out at you that somehow hadn't hit you that way before. And you know, so anyway, you know, there's no shortcut. You got to take your depositions. You have to, you have to review the documents. And, you know, you have to, you know, focus on the jury instructions so you really know what the applicable law is going to be. And, you know, then you just have at it. I wish I could say that there's a shortcut or that there's a trick. And I just don't think there's any, I haven't found it yet. Maybe there is one, but I just haven't found it yet. No, you know, it takes hard work and it takes diligence to get it done.
Got it. But you know, both sides are doing the same thing, right? You would think they're getting ready, they're doing the hard work, they're doing all the prep work, and then, you know, now it's, you know, mano mano. I mean, who wins? I mean, what is it? What is the key to prevailing?
Well, so that's a good question. So sometimes there's genuinely a factual dispute. You know, the 2 sides, no matter what you say, I had the green light, no, I had the green light, and there's just no, you know, you just can't shake anybody. So that's where the good citizens sitting in the jury box are going to make a decision. And depending on what they find and where you're sitting, you think they got it right or not. So that's one thing, just that there's a fundamental factual dispute that the two sides just can't seem to get beyond, or want to settle and, and take some of the risk out of it. The other side is not really analyzing the case accurately. I mean, and I've got a specific example of that. Represented some brothers, and two of the brothers wanted to, basically freeze out a third brother out of a piece of real estate that they owned for years and years and years, and they didn't tell him that the real estate was, they had reached an agreement to sell the real estate, and they agreed to, they offered to buy out my client quick, and they gave him no real, basically going to make the decision by the close of business today type of thing. And so he did. Anyway, he found out that they then sold the property for, what would have been double or triple what they had, his portion of what he got paid. And in that case, we tried the case for 2 days, and then it settled, and it settled for more than our pre-suit demand. And I just think, and the long answer is that I just don't think that the opposing side analyzed the case accurately. I really don't. Or they thought that my client, just didn't have the intestinal fortitude to really go through trial. That's the other calculus that sometimes, each side has to make, whether the other side really will, go through their paces. So I think you have to analyze it right. And I think, and then, and then it's a test of wills, and then it's a test of being able to convince the jury, I guess. So.
Yeah. Do you ever, use a focus group or mock trial if you have a big case to test your argument?
Yeah, not a formal one, to be very honest with you. Lawyers are notorious, so you basically talk about your cases sometimes to any number of people, and really you sometimes try to seek out people that have, no prior knowledge of the facts of the case or of the people, and you try to give them a relatively sanitized summary of the case to try to get their impressions and to try to draw them out. What about this? What about that? To try to get a sense of, geez, maybe I'm not seeing it right. And so I do it on a more of an informal basis. Have we really utilized a mock jury and whatnot? I certainly know that they exist. I've seen them demonstrated, but I have not used them.
Okay. Well, maybe one of these days.
Yeah.
Get to do it.
For the right case, absolutely. For the right case, I can certainly see their value. So,
yeah. I mean, just give me order of magnitude of these cases. Are they multi-million-dollar cases? Are they,
Yeah, they run from the high six figures into the several million, but not the tens of millions.
Okay.
Range.
And you guys, everything's billable out. You don't do anything on contingency?
We do some on contingency. Sometimes, on occasion, the plaintiff employee case we'll take on a contingency. We do some personal injury, not a ton of it. But those are where typically business dispute we don't do on a I don't think the business wants us to take it on a contingency, and it just doesn't make sense. I mean, we've had cases in the $20 million, upwards of 20 million in that type of thing, but we're not in the hundreds of millions. That's not what we have. Bless you.
Excuse me.
Sure.
I'm just getting over a cold. Of course, you get that post-nasal drip.
Yeah.
Just when you don't want it to happen. No, I saw in your background that you had the largest age discrimination case.
Up to that point in time, yes, yeah. That was an interesting case because, believe it or not, employment disputes can be very difficult to resolve because it's a relationship dispute. So that both sides know each other very well and have a lot of history, and that can sometimes be a real impediment. And we ended up trying that case, and we ended up coming up in discovery with a draft announcement after my client was let go to say we're searching for other and younger salespeople.
Mm.
They tried to explain that 6 ways to Sunday, but the jury thought that was evidence of age discrimination. So
So you got damages on that too?
oh yeah, significant damages. Yeah,
I mean punitive damages. I meant
we did. We
you
did.
do okay.
We did. Yeah. Yeah.
Are there caps in Massachusetts on those kind of cases?
On age discrimination, they are capped at 3 times the amount of the compensatory damages. But for sexual harassment or other types of discrimination, like disability discrimination, there are no caps.
Okay.
Punitives are available, and you've got to convince the jury. And if it's totally out of whack, the trial judges or the appeals courts will roll them back. But Massachusetts is not the worst, I don't think, in that regard.
It's interesting how it really does vary state to state.
Oh, it does. It absolutely does. Yeah.
I was talking to a lawyer, I think it was in Chicago, where maybe San Francisco, medical malpractice capped at 250K.
Yeah. That is, although I suspect that might be for the hospital, that might be a nonprofit
Yeah.
organization. I'd be surprised if those caps would apply to the actual doctors, negligent doctor, but I might be wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, it is interesting how it really does vary state to state, which I guess is why you take bar exams for that state, because the law is different.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. All right, good stuff. So just to wrap it up here, just because I'm losing my voice, and probably because we've talked about, I've got a good sense of what you do, but I mean, any sort of like, just summarize the firm, or any last words you want to leave with the audience about, what you guys do and the best way to connect if they want to learn more.
Well, we like what we do. We've been doing it for a long time.
Okay.
The firm, as it's currently constituted, has been, in existence for, 20 years. And I've been at it, longer than that. It's easy to get a hold of us. We're on the web. Our office is right in downtown Boston. And we like what we do. So if you have a business dispute, please give us a call.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. For everybody, once again, Bob Berluti with law firm Berluti McLaughlin Kutchin. And this is sponsored by EmotionTrac, which is a legal tech platform. And we help litigators get ready for mediation trials with our Insights platform. So anyway, thanks again, Bob. Really enjoyed the conversation. Always good to talk to another Bostonian.
Bostonian, exactly, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, and thank you.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. Thank
Okay.
you.